Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to reproducing classic Americanized Chinese cuisine with yet another addition to our ever-growing collection of PF Chang's recipes, with a shot at what I actually think is a pretty interesting dish despite its very generic name, which is the PF Chang's crispy honey chicken. Now, for those who are new here, in this series we have been deconstructing classic dishes from Americanized Chinese cuisine, then seeing what it might look like when reconstructed through the lens of more traditional wok cooking. The PF Chang's crispy honey chicken, to be absolutely honest, has long been a dish that I have regularly skipped over for this series, frankly, because on its surface it sounds pretty uninspiring. Pretty much any fried chicken stir-fry that comes to mind when we talk about this particular genre already includes honey, since it's a pretty critical ingredient to creating a cohesive glaze. This includes things like sesame chicken, orange chicken, sweet and sour chicken, the list kind of just goes on. This of course then begs the question, what even is this dish? The menu describes it as lightly battered with a tangy honey sauce, which again means absolutely nothing to me. You've just described pretty much every dish in this genre. But hear me out though, here's what's really interesting, it's that the glaze itself has a very light coloring to it, meaning no color bias ingredients whatsoever is involved in this dish, like for example soy sauce. So, in our journey to creating a quote-unquote good version of this dish, I thought I'd venture two separate versions here, the first being my very best attempt at deriving sweet and savory umami from this dish using a Chinese-style white sauce approach to the glaze to yield a nice light coloring. Then a second attempt that just completely disregards color bias entirely, and we'll compare. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so diving right in, we're doing both our versions here at the same time today since they're gonna start out essentially the same. First up, this is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic to start, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of fine minced ginger, set aside for both of our glazes coming up. Then next, moving on to our chicken, I have 4 medium chicken thighs here. If you're only attempting one of these recipes though, you probably really only need 2 to 3 thighs. I'm large dicing my thighs here into about 1-inch pieces, then adding to a mixing bowl so that we may do a quick marinade. Now, for our white sauce version here, this will be the only source of color bias today, which of course is because once we're done marinating, we're also going to drain off this liquid marinade too. So up first here, this is 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of soy sauce to start, followed by a single tablespoon each of sesame oil and Shaoxing wine, and finally a half teaspoon of white pepper. I'm mixing this all to combine, then setting aside for 15 minutes to marinate. 15 minutes later, I'm transferring my chicken here to a larger mixing bowl and combining with about a half cup of potato starch for a very simple but very effective chicken karaage breading. As promised, I'm holding back as much of this liquid as possible here so that it doesn't end up in our batter. This has 2 purposes today, the first to help create a drier and therefore more crisp piece of fried chicken, but the second, again, because we're being very careful not to bias the color of our white sauce. Now, at this point you may be asking yourself, is it really worth it to put this much effort into not using color-biased ingredients just to achieve a lighter color to our chicken? Well, that's what we're here to find out today. Next up, we're setting our chicken aside for a moment so that we may assemble our glazes, which of course will be the only place that our 2 different dishes will deviate today. I'm starting off first with my white sauce, which is very much inspired by the white sauce that we used in our Cantonese-style mugu gai pan from a few months back. This is a single tablespoon of sesame oil here to start things off, followed by what ended up being closer to 6 tablespoons of honey, or about a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons. We'll explore why this is in a moment. Rounding this out, this is 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, plus what I personally think is the secret ingredient to this dish. This is the juice of 1/2 of 1 lemon to give us that nice tangy brightness that we were promised. Finally, rounding this all out, this is a 1/4 cup of chicken stock and just a pinch of MSG for that last bump of umami that we're missing from not having soy sauce here. Next, in a separate bowl, I'm assembling my second version here, which, as promised, has absolutely no regard for the darkness of our glaze, which opens up a whole world of possibilities. First up, this is 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of soy sauce to start, followed by 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar and a 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of honey. Then rounding this out, now at this point we could add just a whole world of possible umami drivers to create some nice depth of flavor. Personally today I'm going with some Korean gochujang chili paste to create a Yangnam chicken inspired glaze, but some of my other favorites that we have done in the past include things like chili crisp oil, doubanjiang, miso paste, and much more. Over on the stove, I have my fryer heating up to 350 degrees F, then we're adding in our chicken about 25 to 30 pieces at a time, being very careful to maintain our oil at 350 F with an instant read thermometer. I'm pulling my chicken out here after about 3 to 5 minutes once they're nice and golden brown. Personally, I have always skipped the double fry with karaage batters like this one because I find that it's dry enough to achieve decent crispiness without the extra cooking time. But if you want, you can also absolutely double fry your chicken too. Just keep in mind that it will take twice as long. Then next I'm removing my fryer oil, wiping down my wok, reheating over medium heat this time, and adding just 2 tablespoons of peanut oil. Then up first here is my white sauce version. Here's my garlic and ginger going in for about 15 seconds until nice and fragrant, followed by my white sauce glaze, which we're reducing for 3 to 5 minutes until a thickened glaze begins to form. As promised, here's about an extra 2 tablespoons of honey going in. Our white sauce has a lot more liquid involved, so I did find that a little extra honey helped achieve the thickened glaze texture that I wanted. Once reduced, we're adding in our chicken, then just quickly tossing to coat before removing from heat immediately so that we don't start to boil our fried chicken. Moving on to our darker glaze next, I'm reheating the wok once again over medium heat, adding another 2 tablespoons of peanut oil, then here's my garlic and ginger going in once again for 15 seconds until nice and fragrant. Then here's my gochujang honey glaze going in, plus about a 1/4 cup of water. This is partially just to help get some of that residual glaze left in the bowl out, but I think it's also useful because our gochujang glaze has a lot of sugars going on in it, so just a little bit of liquid helps the reduction process along without letting those sugars burn. Once a thickened glaze begins to form, I'm killing the heat, then adding in our chicken and tossing everything to combine. I'm serving both of these over rice with a pinch of sesame seed to garnish, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so starting off with our white sauce version here, I think we've actually done a pretty decent job at recreating the original color and texture of that PF Chang's version, which is to say basically just the color of honey, maybe a little bit darker. To pair with it, I actually think we've also done a pretty decent job at deriving umami and complexity of flavor here too, given how very few ingredients we've actually used in this dish. I think the chicken stock and the MSG that we've added is giving us some very nice umami, but what's really driving it home for me is the brightness and acidity that's coming from that lemon juice. It's just acting as such a natural complement to our other umami drivers and giving the whole dish a really interesting and well-rounded quality that's not just simply sugar chicken. As for our second version, now I have to be honest, I kind of already knew that this was going to be really good because, well, it's a pretty tried and true combination. The Korean gochujang glazed chicken known as Yangnam chicken is certainly not a new innovation and has existed for quite some time. The fermented heat and umami that comes from the gochujang chili paste pairs very nicely with the sugars from the honey, giving us this very deeply flavorful piece of chicken that honestly will never really miss for me. It's chilies plus honey, what can go wrong? The point being though, I know our Yangnam chicken is not necessarily groundbreaking, but I do hope that it demonstrates the point that I was driving toward, which is that if we overlook the color biasing in our stir fries, it opens up just a whole realm of possibilities. But the question is that necessarily a good thing? If we had added gochujang and soy sauce to the first version, would that lemon juice really have come to life in the same way? I mean, probably not, so choose for yourselves accordingly, y'all. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series that we've been doing that's dedicated to reproducing classic Chinese American dishes, including a whole bunch of other stuff from the PF Chang's menu, so definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, the Wu Can Cook Fried Rice pop-up is at the West Oakland Farmers Market in Oakland every Sunday morning, so come by and say hi if you can. More about that at wucancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice YouTubers, and I'll see you soon.